Hello, everyone. It's Nancy from Into the Rabbit Hole with me. I wanted to do a flip through of the literature Odyssey because, to be honest, I haven't really had a chance myself to really flip through everything. I'm not going to be starting this for a month or so more because we're in the middle of doing a Memoria Press literature guide for Tom Sawyer, and then we have a couple other things in the works. And this is something that we're going to be kind of looping in and interweaving in between some of our heavier load literature studies like Memoria Press or Beyond the Page. Those are the two other literature studies type curriculum that we're also going to be implementing in addition to this. So this is going to be something that we just loop in here and there and stuff, but I haven't really had a chance to really dig through all the things. So I figured we'd do it together. So because I'm an impatient person, and also because I may want to reuse this with my youngest whenever he comes up in age and stuff, I went and I got the digital version. So they have a digital version, and then they also have a hard copy one that you can wait for them to mail to you. But the literature guide is only available as a digital download as of when I purchased it. And I purchased it, I think, the day that they released it. So maybe later on in the future, they will offer like a hard copy. But right now, it's only a digital. So you can get this, though, and you can get this mailed to you or a digital copy. But again, if you have kids, younger kids than the one that you're going to be using this for, it may benefit you to do the digital copy. That way you can reprint it out and use it with those kids, I'm going to do a flip through of this, but for my quick flip through that I have done, because again, I haven't really had a chance to look through it. That's why I was like, oh, maybe we'll do it together. There is different information presented in here than in here. So this one is all encompassing. This is the student version. And this has everything that you need. It's in the teacher's guide, it is more of a shortened version and more of like the highlights clip. Like, this is what they're going to be taking away from it. These are our learning objectives. This is what we're going to do. And some teaching instruction in here as well. They also have the graphic organizers that they provide in here. They also provide in the teacher's guide, but it's filled out with examples, so that's nice to have, yeah. So anything in here when you're doing character analysis and stuff, they're going to have examples, like sample answers in here. Okay. So they're going to have like that kind of stuff in here. All the questions for the comprehension checks is going to be in here as well, here you go. So it will kind of give you like a summary. So you have your learning objectives. They also have this in the student guide. But in here, it's kind of just like a condensed version. This is what your students going to be doing. This is what they're going to take away from it. This is how you can assist them type of thing, Yeah. And then you have that, and again, everything like filled in. So I think it's very useful to have like the teacher's guide, because again, it's not just regurgitating information that is in the student guide. This is a little bit more focused and more direct to the point, and obviously the answers are filled in with the graphic organizers and all that stuff filled in, so you have something to compare to, Anyway, I really want to focus the majority of our time in here, because this is where you're going to see the meat and potatoes. Just know that for the teacher's guide, it's not a regurgitation of things in here. It is more of a focused summary of the things they're going to be doing, as well as some how you can guide your student in there, some teaching tips and things of that sort. You know what I mean? So it is useful to have. Okay, I just wanted to point that out, because sometimes it is simply a regurgitation of it. And you can even see, hold on, if I hold both of them side by side, you can see the top one is not as big and as fat as the student one. You know what I mean? So yeah, when I was printing it out, I kind of expected it to be as thick as this, because usually the teacher's guide is just a regurgitation of the information with the answers filled in, but it's not. It's more of a condensed, hey, this is what they're going to be doing, some ways that you can assist them, and obviously all the graphic organizers and reading comprehension questions like filled in here, so that way you can look through it, But anyway, I haven't really had a chance much other than what I told you, to really look through the guide. So again, I figured that we'd do it together. So I do know, because I did look through the very first lesson, but after that, I haven't really looked beyond anything. I do know that the first one is kind of like an overview of how to annotate. So it is how to assist them in annotating, how to gather information and evidence from the text to support your reasoning, things of that sort, Okay, so you have learning objectives. I really like that. It's in a big old box in here telling you exactly what we're going to be doing. So again, the main focus for lesson 1 is annotating. But then if you look over here, I think that this is really cool because it breaks it down. So day 1, you're going to read the lesson and complete the content assignment. And then day 2, complete the analysis question and do the reflection activity. I thought that's handy because this is written directly to the student so they can do it independently. I'm going to be using it. I don't think I mentioned this in the beginning. This is with a suggested age range of grades 8 to 10. I'm going to be using this with my incoming 7th graders. So he's still in 6th grade right now, technically not in 7th, but he's going to be using it for the remainder of his 6th grade year and then for his 7th grade year. You know, it's really weird for me this time of year. What are we in May? It's really weird for me to talk about like grades and stuff because we homeschool year round. And for the most part, we've already transitioned into our 7th grade year, you know, but in my mind, for purposes of homeschool evaluations and keeping things straight in my head and stuff, our technical school year doesn't start until the regular public school system starts, which is in August, right? So in August, that's when my brain starts turning into full on, well, we're already in 7th grade doing most of our 7th grade curriculum and stuff. But you guys know what I mean, especially you guys who homeschool year round. It gets a little confusing because you're not always finishing the stuff right around May, you know, or whatever. People who don't homeschool year round typically like finish their stuff, you know? So anyway, it talks directly to the student. How do you construct meaning from the text? It's guiding you. They're going to be reading that. And then, and continuing to read how to read a story, how to deep read. They mentioned that you're going to be reading the first time for pleasure, the second time as a deep read, a second read. So the second time that you read it, it's to gather information that you may have missed the first time around, you know? So just has, you know, information for them. Who's in the story, what happens, when and where does the story take place. See, it talks about the first read, that they're usually exciting. And then you're going to have to do a second read, even if it makes you cringe, because this is when you're going to really take the time to notice details that you may not have noticed before. Then it goes into what is annotating, and it goes through this. So you have like a little Q&A. So why do I need to know this? Answer. Do I need any special tools? Can I annotate incorrectly? How do you know if you're doing it right? And then, okay, but what does understand the text even mean? The answer. And then you're going to be citing evidence. So like paraphrasing, using direct quotation, how to cite. So you're going to be using author's last name and page number of the reference text. This is something I'm working with my son separately as well. So I love that they have it in here. And then it just goes to more stuff for the student to know over here. Okay, and now you are getting into vocabulary. Okay, active reading, what that means, annotating, deep reading, direct quotation, paraphrasing, parenthetical citation. So your content assignment here is to practice annotating. So hold on, let's go back to, okay, so you're gonna read the lesson and complete the content assignment. All right, content assignment is to do this annotating practice. So that is what they do day 1. So here is our reading. It says grab a utensil of your choice, a writing utensil, and we're going to look at finding answers to the following question. What is Venus like? It's very scaffolded. I really like this. For those who don't know how to like annotate, this is like really handy because they're giving you guidance instead of saying, hey, here's this, annotate this, find me this. Like you're starting with one simple thing. What is Venus like? So first you're going to read it. And then when you do the second read, you're going to annotate. As you reread and annotate, keep this question in mind. So, and then it guides them along. And then here's an example. And I really like that a lot because a lot of times a lot of times they will say, oh, annotate, but there's no example. Like what's it supposed to look like? Just for kids who may need that guidance. And there's no wrong or right way of annotating. It's going to be up to everybody's like individual style, of course, you know, but I love that they do provide like an example. Okay. So let me just make sure. I think, yeah, that goes into the next lesson. So the remaining things that we have here are these analysis questions. And I think Yeah, that's part of day 2. Complete the analysis question and do the reflection activity. So that was all that they were supposed to do for day 1. So for day 1, they're just reading all the stuff and then doing the vocabulary and then practice annotating. That was day 1. Day 2 is they're just answering these analysis questions over here. So what is your initial impression of Venus after reading the paragraph? What evidence from the text supported your interpretation of the paragraph? Then you have a reflection activity, which they wanted you to do, right? So how can deep reading strategies make you a more effective reader? How can active reading strategies make you a more effective reader? How do you think annotating can help increase your understanding of a text? And what challenges do you think you may face while developing the skills presented in this lesson? Bam. So that is done, right? So that is the first lesson. By the way, this is intended to be done over 1 semester, so 16 weeks. So however you want to split this up, you can do the math on your own. If you want to do more than 1 lesson a week, how many lessons are there? There's 16 lessons, with the 16th one being the final project. So it's split up to be 1 lesson a week. So you can easily incorporate this with anything else that you want to use with it if you don't want to use this as your sole literature curriculum, you know? But the focus for this one is short stories. The next one that they're coming out with is poetry. And then they're going to have full-on novel ones. And then I forgot what the other, but I think that there's 6, right, that they're coming out with, I believe. But I know short stories, then it's poetries, and I know somewhere in there it's full-length novels, and I forgot what the rest is. So here's lesson 2. Here's plot structure, again with the learning objectives. So identify the different components of the plot arc, explain how the different components of the plot arc function in a short story. So this time it's a little bit different because you see you have day 1, day 2, day 3, and day 4. So again, it tells you what to do. So you're going to read the lesson, complete the content assignment. Day 2, first read of the story, and then complete the comprehension check. Oh, never mind. Here, because I was like, you're reading it 3 times. No, read the lesson and then complete the content assignment. Then you're going to read the story for the first go around and you're going to complete the comprehension check. Then you're doing a second read, day 3 of the story, and you're going to complete the story assignment. Then day 4, complete the analysis questions, do the reflection activity. Okay. So day 1, read the lesson and complete the content assignment. This is the lesson you're reading all about this, right? The different parts of a plot arc. It's going in pretty deep, I feel, into this one. So you're still reading this. All the different parts are broken out for you. So the exposition, the rising action, the climax, the falling action, the resolution, and it's going through everything in there, right? So that was what you're supposed to read. And then you have vocabulary in here. So you're learning about climax, exposition, falling action, flashbacks, flash forwards, inciting incident, in medias res, linear structure, narrative structure, nonlinear structure. I like this because this is it's talking about the chronological path that stories usually take, but not all the time do stories go in a linear fashion. Sometimes they have parallel structures where more than one timelines are happening at the same time. And then you have your flashback, which would be your non-linear structure and things like that. So that's really good. Plot arc, resolution, rising action, right? So your vocabulary isn't necessarily in terms of like from the story so far. So far right now, it's just getting down terminology. So here's your content assignment. This is what you're supposed to have done day 1. So you have your short film plot arc. It says, as you can imagine, trying to identify all the parts of the plot in a long book can be challenging. There can be hundreds of pages just for the rising action. Short stories are the perfect way to practice those skills, but so are short films. This is super cool. Choose one or more of the following short films to watch. This is super cool. Links to all 3 short films can be found on the Pandia Press's web links. Feast, Piper, The Present. I love this. And so this is what really got me excited about this particular curriculum, is because of all the different mediums that they incorporate. And so when they first came out with like a little sample during Black History Month in February, they had one on the Harlem Renaissance. And they had a similar function where they were doing something like this, and I loved it. And so then I was like, oh my gosh, they're coming out with the literature one. I'm really excited for it, you know? So this is what made me want to purchase it, or all these other interactive features, you know? So anyway, the first time you watch the short film, watch it all the way through without stopping. Then see if you can fill out the plot arc diagram on page 20, watching the film as many times as needed. Some helpful tips. You're going to identify the climax first, the citing event, and blah, blah, blah. Once you finish your plot arc, you can compare your answers with the completed plot arcs in the teacher's guide. Remember that your answers may not match directly. That's okay. Pay attention to where they differ, particularly with the climax and inciting incident. If you feel that you misidentified one of those, feel free to revise your plot arc, and we learn from our mistakes, you know? So here you go. So that is going to be like a fun one. So literally they just have to read all this, right? That they just have to read that, and then they just have to watch a short film and fill out the plot arc. I think that that is so fun. Okay. So here's your first read. Let's go back to the very beginning. Hold on. All right. So for day 2, do your first read of the story and complete the comprehension check. Okay. So all summer in a day. My son has probably read this a lot. A lot. So he's probably going to groan at doing this again, but that's okay because I do want, it's just, we just got to do it. You know, we're just going to do it. I was thinking at first that maybe we would skip it and stuff, but I do think that there's value in repeating it again. And there's review and, you know, a lot of like connections are made whenever you do review things over and over again. That's why reviewing is important. So it's okay. I think this is officially like our 4th time, but the way that they're doing it may be a little bit different from how we've done it in the past. So we're just going to do it to fruition. We're going to do it cover to cover, and it is what it is. I think there's another story in here too. I think it's The Most Dangerous Game, which is such a classic. I really do love the short stories that they pick from here. They are such classes. I want to say The Lottery is in here too. I think it is. And so I just love the short stories that were picked were such classics. Like that is like huge kudos to them on the short stories that they picked, you know? Anyway, let's go back to this. All summer in a day. So the first time that you read it, your focus should be on understanding the story. You can still circle, so you can still annotate, but we're focusing on understanding the story. And then after you read, see if you can answer the comprehension check questions. You can answer these mentally or jot them down in a notebook if you prefer. The questions are included to help gauge your understanding before you start analyzing the text. So here you go, a little bit on Ray Bradbury. Okay, and then they provide the text for you. So I think that that is a neat little thing that they did, because they could have easily linked it, because this is available, I think, for free online and stuff. So they could have easily linked it, but I love that they didn't. And I want you to notice how they split this like this, because this side, I'm assuming they're going to be annotating in the second read. So I love how they did that, you know? So again, they could have just linked it, and then they could have just marked it up on their own. But the fact that they reformatted, included it in here, and left this space like that, like little things like that, I notice. And I think that like these little things, you know? So anyway, here's a short story. It does not end, by the way, in a good way. That's why my son particularly is not a fan of the story, but boy, does he remember it because of the way it ends. Okay, so here's the comprehension check. What is life like on Venus? What event are the children awaiting? How is Margot different from the other children? Why do the other children not like Margot? What did the other children do to Margot? Okay, all right, that's all they have to do. So that was it for that day. Hold on, let's go back and look. All right, so first read of the story, complete comprehension check. That was that right there, complete comprehension check. Day 3, read it a second time and complete the story assignment. All right, so now here's your second read instruction. So pay particular attention to the progression of the plot and make sure that you're annotating. I probably missed that somewhere in here, but you're probably supposed to be annotating throughout. You know, I'm sure they mention it in here somewhere, you know. It doesn't specifically say it in the second read, or let's do the first read. Hold on. Yeah, I mean, you're annotating already. You're supposed to be circling and looking up for words that you're unfamiliar with. Yeah. I mean, but it's kind of a given, right? That's why it's there. Anyway, so you have the second read. What else were we supposed to do besides the second read? We were supposed to complete the story assignment. What's the story assignment? Right here. The plot arc. Plot arc diagram for all summer in a day. Create a plot arc for all summer in a day using the diagram. Remember, it's easier to fill in the climax and kind of like working your way backwards. And here you go. And they give you another one for all summer in a day. Okay, then we have this. So that was it, right? So that was day 3. So the final day, complete the analysis questions and do the reflection activity. So here are the analysis questions. How would you describe the plot structure in All Summer Day? Linear, nonlinear, and why? How does the exposition work to establish a story? What information does Bradbury provide that is essential to the rest of the plot? What effect does the weather on Venus have on the plot of the story? Could the same plot occur without the extreme weather setting? What is an inciting incident in the story and what effect does it have on the climax? And then review all that stuff. When you hear the word resolution in literature, we typically expect the conflicts in the story to be resolved. That does not happen here. And then your reflection activity. How did your plot arcs compare to the sampled plot arc in the teacher's guide? If there were differences, do you stand by your analysis? Why or why not? What do you think is the most difficult part of the plot arc to identify? This is all that they have to do on that final day. You know, I think you can easily combine a couple of these days together if you want to, or not, or you can just leave it like this. You know what I mean? I personally, I have a mix of emotions when it came to this. So at first I was super, super, super excited because again of that Harlem Renaissance little teaser that they put out there. I was like really excited for it. And then when I got it, I was a little bit like let down on it. And I was like, oh, because it just didn't match up with this idealized version that I had of it, right? And then now that I've had a little bit of chance to like go back and do it, I'm re-excited about it. So I had a roller coaster of emotions with this literature Odyssey. It's been a long time since I've been excited about a literature guide or a literature curriculum. It's been like a while. And so part of the letdown was that I was so excited, like I put it on such a huge pedestal. And then when I got it through my first initial flip through, I was a little bit disappointed because a lot of the stuff in here we had already done. Now, my son is a little bit advanced in his ELA. So he's a little bit more, so he's not a typical like 6th grader type of thing. So in my situation, my child specifically, it was like, oh my gosh, it's just going to be like a lot of review for us. You know what I mean? But now like I'm getting re-excited because there's a lot of little things that they included in here that I think are very handy. And I'm always a proponent of review is good. Review is good. And so what if he knows a lot of the stuff, the way that they're approaching it is going to be a little bit different. And I think there's a lot of value in here. So I am re-excited about it. And I think that he's really, really going to love it. For my youngest coming up, when it's his time to do this, I think this is going to be spot on for him. Spot on. I'm really, really excited when he gets into this because I think he's really going to like it, you know? Anyway, let's do one more. So this seems to be split out into a 4-day, with the very first lesson being the exception to the rule because it was just kind of like getting your feet wet type of thing. So again, you have your learning objectives, identifying examples of different types of conflict. Love this. I really do. Evaluate the impact of internal and external conflict in a short story. So here's what you're going to do day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. So the flow seems to be about the same where day 1, you're reading the lesson and you're completing the content assignment. Okay. So you're reading all about a conflict. I love the way it's written. It's very conversational. It's like in a narrative way, you know, it's just conversational, like you're having a conversation. So you're going over internal conflict, but within internal conflict, I love that they're talking about character versus self. And they're using the example of Charlotte's Web. And then you have an external conflict. And then you have character versus character, character versus nation. See, we can always use a refresher on this because I think it's been a solid year since we even discussed this, you know? So character versus society. And then for your definition, this is really, oh, I love how they have Lord of the Rings, a lot of external conflict. Like I just, the way that it talks, like this is very like relevant terminology, like very relevant, like modern references. Do you know what I mean? Where they would know what Lord of the Rings is. They would know, look, here's a reference to the Hunger Games. You know what I mean? Now they do mention To Kill a Mockingbird, so not very modern, but you know what I mean for the most part. And then they talk about Moby Dick. For the most part, I feel like it's done in a very conversational way. So anyway, character versus character, character versus nation. Why do I keep saying nation? Character versus nature versus self versus society, conflict, external, and then internal, you know? Okay, so that was day one. They were supposed to read all this, right? And then they're supposed to do this content assignment. So let's see what this is. So create a one-pager that illustrates the different types of conflict using examples from books, television shows, movies, yada, yada, yada. The basic idea of a one-pager is that you include everything on, you guessed it, one page. If you've never created a one-pager before, do a quick one. This is actually, I just recently found out about this not too long ago, so I'm super excited for him to do this. This is more of a creative outlet. You're still like regurgitating information that you found out, and you're kind of doing this different way of like note taking, like spreading the information. It's like notebooking. You're just putting like a little bit of a creative spin on it. There's tons of examples online, because I did a couple months ago, I heard about this for the first time and I Googled it, and there's tons of examples, you know? So anyway, this is really cool as long as he goes and he mentions everything. So he has to include internal and external conflict. So versus self, versus character, nature, society, and then an internal, external conflict, how they both can appear in the same story. That is really cool. I like that. That is really cool. Okay, that is it. Okay, so that's all you're doing that first day. You're reading and you're doing that. I think that's perfect. I'm getting even more excited now. Now, the first read, he's going to be reading The Most Dangerous Game. Now, he's read this one already. I think my biggest challenge with this one is that he's done a lot of these readings already before, so none of this is new. And but can I just say that these are good stories? These are not dry or boring stories so far. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through all the stories, actually. Why not, right? Let's just go through like all the different stories, because I personally want to see, because is it all going to be like stories that we have? This is my own personal situation, my own personal one, you know? But The Most Dangerous Game is a classic. Do you know that this is like the first of your Hunger Game type of like dystopian novel type stuff. Like these are the founders of these type of storylines, you know? So The Most Dangerous Game is a really cool one. So anyway, so you're going to learn about that. You guys remember, right? I don't have to keep going back and forth. What was day 1, day 2, day 3, right? They follow like the same they follow the same flow. So day 1, you're reading and you're completing the content assignment. Then you do the first read, do comprehension check. Second read, complete the story assignment. So we know all that. I'm not going to go back and forth anymore, but you can see that it's all done in like small chunks. You know what I mean? Okay. So anyway, so that was day 1. So you're going to be reading day 2. You're going to be doing your first read of The Most Dangerous Game. And once again, they provided in here. They could have easily linked it. I'm telling you, they could have just linked it. You print it out on your own. But instead, they did it here with room for annotations here. Like little small details like that. I really appreciate. That is really cool. Okay. So The Most Dangerous Game, another really good story with a surprise ending. All of them so far that they're introducing you guys to, they all have like a surprise ending. Ending that you wouldn't have typically foreseen, you know? So they say short story, but they're all a little bit lengthy, you know? Okay. Okay, so here is a comprehension check. What is Rainford told about Ship Trap Island while still on the boat? What are Rainford's initial thoughts about hunters and huntees? How does he end up on the island? What role does Ivan play on the island? What does Rainsford learn about General Zaroff on his first night home? And all the things. And then your second read, you're going to be identifying the different types of conflict in the story. So they're giving you annotating prompts. Highlight examples of different types of internal conflict in one color and external conflict in another color. And so they're guiding you this whole entire time. So the very first time, if we remember, like when we were reading the other story, All Summer in a Day, they wanted us, I think we were supposed to be highlighting the setting, I think it was, but I could be wrong. They had us highlighting something. In this one, they're kind of guiding you. So they're just kind of like making sure that they're beginning to annotate and stuff, you know, with that being the goal in mind, and prompting them that we're going to be focusing on conflict. And make helpful notes to aid in your analysis. So you're going to analyze these conflicts and make an argument for which type plays the most significant role in the development of the plot. Be prepared to cite evidence to support your opinion. I'm telling you, that is really good. I'm getting excited. I am getting really, really excited. I think I went through, I'm telling you, a roller coaster of emotions. I had this on a pedestal level 10. And then when I got it, part of my disappointment, I think probably was because it was a lot of the stories that we already read. And it was a lot of review for our literature analysis. That like literature analysis portions that they're doing was a bit of a review for us. But now I'm getting really excited because who cares if it's a review? I think it's quality. Okay, I'm getting really excited. Review is always good. Review is good. That's what I keep telling myself. And it is true. Review is good. And the way that they have this split up, I think he's really going to enjoy it. Okay, here's your story assignment. Rainsford is faced with a whirlwind of conflict throughout the story. Which conflict do you think affected the plot most? Which one is the least? Use a conflict rankings organizer on page 71 to rank the different types of conflict faced by Rainsford. He's the main character in the most dangerous game, to the least significant. For each type of conflict, you will need to provide at least 2 quotes from the text to support your opinion. So if you've been annotating and you were highlighting, you're going to find this assignment to be easier than not having done it. And so this is a lesson all on itself, right? Because if they have to go back into the text and basically reread the whole story again, this is a lesson to them on, oh, my annotating wasn't up to par quite yet. You know what I mean? I could have done it better because I needed this for the, you know what I mean? So that I like things like that because it's a lesson among a lesson, you know? And then write a few sentences to justify your choices, reviewing your highlighted sections that you were supposed to have done when they first prompted it to you will aid you in completing this assignment. However, do not confuse frequency with importance. You may notice that a type of conflict appears frequently throughout the story, but does not necessarily translate to the most significant impact of the plot. This is all a part of analysis. You're not simply just regurgitating and just like you're analyzing this piece of literature. And I think that's the big takeaway in there. And why I'm getting so excited over this is not a simple regurgitation of character setting, plot, problem, solution. This is analysis. This is, you're getting more into the analysis portion of literature. So you're thinking deeper beyond the surface level of character setting, plot, protagonist, antagonist. You're getting deeper in it, you know? And I think that's part of why I'm getting excited. Okay, so what does that graphic organizer look like? Right here, from least significant, you're going to rank into 1, 2, 3. Internal conflict, character versus self, character versus character, character versus nation, there I go again, nature. And you're going to rank from most significant to least and cite your evidence. Remember, I think you needed at least two or some quotes or something like that. And then you have your analysis questions. Think back to the plot structure that you studied in the previous lesson. What do you think the inciting incident is? And how does it help shape the conflict when you pair that with the climax? More than likely, you've been thinking about any internal conflict in the most dangerous game in terms of Rainsford's conflict. What about General Zaroff? Can you find evidence of internal conflict for him? How do you think Rainsford's internal and external conflict play off each other in the story? Could one exist without the other in this scenario? Is conflict always bad? Is it possible for conflict to be a catalyst for positive change in a story? What is one type of conflict that is present in all Summer in a Day, and how did it impact its plot? I'm telling you, you're thinking deeper about it, and then you have a Unit 1 project. So that's your lesson 4. So hold on. I thought there was only a final one. I thought there was only that final project. This is a surprise. What are you going to be doing in Unit 1? Analyze how conflict plays an essential role in the development of the plot in a story. Effectively integrate evidence from the text to support analysis and creative interpretation. So, why do we need conflict? Think back to the stories that you read. What conflicts did they face? For this unit, you can choose between the following projects. While these projects explore the importance of plot and conflict in slightly different ways, all will require you to think critically and creatively about the stories that you read. All right, so here are our options, okay? Compose an essay in which you explore the importance of conflict in a short story from this unit. Create a character interview in which you prepare at least 10 interview questions and responses about the plot and conflict of the story. You have the option of writing the interview as if it were a publication, or you can act out or record the interview. Or design a comic strip that explores the development of the plot with an additional conflict. All right, it says, after you have finished your project, you will need to participate in a capstone conversation with the parent. What they tell you in the teacher's guide, by the way, is they tell you for these projects to have basically a cafe date with your son, to go out into a different environment in a calm space where you're giving him your undevoted attention, where you can have like a little sweet treat and have like a little drink or whatever while they present or their capstone project or whatever with you. And I think that's a really neat way that he'll really like. This conversation is designed to assess how well your project fulfilled the learning outcomes. So there's that. So, okay, so they don't leave you here, because I was like, well, are they going to guide us in how to compose an essay in which you explore the importance of conflict in a short story? So are they going to leave us hanging, right? Like, no, they don't. So here's option 1. So if you choose to go with option 1, there you go. If you choose to go with option 2, here's the interview. Do they have option 3? Yep. Option 3, here's your graphic novel. So they're guiding you. They're not just leaving you hanging like, hey, these are your options and we're not going to tell you what to do or how to do it. You know what I mean? And then here, preparing for your capstone conversation with your mom and dad, like, right? Because we're the teachers. So how to prepare, like even to present it. So it's not just, hey, go and meet with your parent or whatever once you're finished doing any one of these options. It's how are you as a student now going to prepare? Because great, you finished doing the essay or whatever it was you were going to do, but you also have to prepare for this meeting. You got to present it to your parent. So how are you going to prepare? You're going to review the learning goals for the character unit. You're going to just review what you're going to do. Are you going to do, how are you going to present it? Taking notes, examples of the project to discuss, like bring some stuff for you to discuss, something that you want to talk about the project, and relax. This is a chance to show the amazing work that you did. What to expect during the chat. How your learning will be checked. Oh, and they give you the rubric. So it says, how will the learning be checked? It says the rubric will be used to assess how well the project and responses. So this is what, so as a student, they give it to them. Like, okay, here are the standards. Take a look at it. So that way they can prepare for it. That is really smart. So the same rubric the parent's going to have, the student has. So that way they can take a look. I'm telling you, I'm getting really excited about it. I really am. I think this is going to be such like a breath of fresh air. And I think that's the best way of describing it. It's a breath of fresh air. I think especially in between doing my Memoria Press guides with him, which are a little bit more, not to say that this is not rigorous at all. I'm not saying that, but it's less fun. Let's put it that way. The Memoria Press one is less fun. It's less creativity. It's less personal input. Do you know what I mean? It's very regimented and stuff. So this is more of a relaxed vibe. Do you know what I mean? While I still feel like it's still rigorous. You know what I mean? So anyway, so that was it. So that was the Unit 1 project. And look, Unit 2, you're going to be focusing on characters. All right, so I want to go through and I want to look at the different, but you can see, so far we watched a short film. They are doing some sort of presentation. They're going to, they looked at 2 different stories that really all have to do with conflict, a deep analysis into the setting and All Summer in a Day. You're exploring the different types of conflict, and then you're reviewing a plot arc, identifying the inciting event, and then the climax. You're learning literature, vocabulary. So that was just in the first 4 lessons, you know what I mean? And then you're doing some sort of written or presentation and stuff. I don't know, but I'm really excited. So anyway, so these next sections for Unit 2 is focusing on characters. So what I want to do is I'm going to go to the story, okay? Because I want to know. So far, this is not a new story for us. Let's look at the vocabulary. Direct characterization, indirect, and then inferencing. Love it. That's what you're going to be focusing on for that lesson. Oh, you're still going back and talking about Margot. Yeah, you're still going back and you're talking about Margot from All Summer in a Day. So you're still doing probably a lot of comparing and contrasting. Langston Hughes. Thank you, ma'am. We have not read this one. I am excited. And he's going to be super excited because he loves Langston Hughes. Primarily, we've been focusing on poetry with Langston Hughes. This is going to be like a fun one for him. Oh, guys. All right. I'm getting excited. Okay, so that was... Oh, you're going to be doing some inferencing in here. Lovely. I love this. Citing to specific, pointing to specific evidence, and then inferencing. Love it. Oh my gosh. Okay. The next lesson is on character types. Flat and round characters, dynamic and static characters. Yes, yes, yes. We have not reviewed this in I think a year. This is going to be amazing. Positive, negative, a positive character arc. Oh, seeing the growth that happens, and then the negative character arc. It's almost like the reverse, and what a flat character is. Definition, and again, I love that these are not vocabulary words at like revolving around the readings. It is literature analysis type vocabulary. Oh, I'm so excited. And then again with the graphic, oh my goodness. Oh my gosh, you're still going and you're doing still comparing and contrasting All Summer in a Day, the most dangerous game. All right, what are we reading? Oh, we have not read this one. We have not read this one. By James Hurst. Okay, so excited. Okay. All right, let's go to the next. What lesson is this? Lesson 6, right? Let's go to the next one. Point of view. So first, second, third person point of view, how the narrator's perspective influences the information being presented in the story, and then distinguish between reliable and unreliable narrators with textual evidence to support your analysis. Okay, I am here for this. Perspective. Oh, the third person omniscient, third person limited. I think we can actually use a little bit of review on this because, again, a lot of the stuff we haven't done in at least, I think, a year, maybe last summer. So we haven't done, let's see. Yeah, this is going to be rewriting from another point of view from the last story. That is your content assignment. Okay, we got to stop. Mark Twain. This is going to be perfect timing because by the time he gets to this lesson 7, like he's just right now, he's reading Tom Sawyer. So this is really great for him to read another writing from Mark Twain, the celebrated jumping frog of Calaveras County. So Mark Twain, we have not read that one. I think when I got disappointed when I first did it, it's because I'm like, oh, All Summer in a Day. As like the first one that I saw, because I was like, come on now. We've read it like 4 times. You know what I mean? Okay, here's the Unit 2 project. So they are doing multiple projects. Like it seems like every 4 lessons. So like every 4 lessons. So lessons 1 through 4. And now we have 4 through 8. Okay, what do they have to do here for this project? Create a series of social media posts from your character that documents who they are and how they might interact with others. Compose an essay in which you examine the author's use of characterization. Design a character mood board. Love it. I just love the creative ways, you know? And again, it's all scaffolded. It's going to tell you exactly. All right, so lesson 9. Okay, first of all, to be noted, now we're focusing, excuse me, on the setting. So now we're focusing on setting. So the next 4 lessons basically are going to do that, you know? So what are we reading? Oh, I love for the setting. You're doing the physical setting, the historical period, the social contacts, and the culture. That is very smart. You're reading the medicine bag. You're reading the medicine bag. I have actually never heard of this story. I get really excited when I've never heard of a story. Okay, so you're doing that. Okay, Now you're going into mood and tone for lesson 10. And what story are you going to read? The Fall of the House of Usher. This is probably one of the few ones from Edgar Allan Poe that we have not gotten to. And I was planning on doing it this fall, but this is awesome. So The Fall of the House of Usher, Edgar Allan Poe. That is amazing. All right, what's the next one? Oh, you have a Unit 3 project, okay? Oh gosh, a diorama is one of the options. I think it's going to be so fun. You always have an essay as an option, but that one also looked like it had a diorama. All right, Unit 4, now we're focusing on theme. Okay, irony. I just saw irony, foreshadowing, dramatic irony, situational irony, sarcasm. This is awesome. Direct forecasting, indirect foreshadowing. This is really awesome. Really awesome. We're going to read Lamb to the Slaughter by Roald Dahl. This is going to be, oh gosh, I am so excited. I am like so excited all over again. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, they're going to be doing a Alfred Hitchcock somewhere in here. I must have missed it in one of the assignments. They're going to be watching one. OMG. OMG. And they're going to be doing some comparing and contrasting. I absolutely love that. Organizer for foreshadowing and irony in Dahl versus Hitchcock. OMG. This is going to be perfect. So this is his written story. Hitchcock must have done a film version of it. And we're comparing and contrasting the two. This is amazing. I am so excited. Okay, here's the next story. The Stolen Party. Oh my gosh, guys. I can't even begin to tell you. All right. Here is the next one. Sorry, it keeps sticking to my mat. Oh gosh, supporting evidence. What are we doing? I can't help. A thesis statement. Oh, you're going through. And they're providing thesis statement examples from the Grapes of Wrath. Yeah, they're writing. I think they're writing a short literary analysis, because your thesis, evidence, reasoning. I think that they are. Did I miss the story for lesson? No, I didn't. The Story of an Hour. Here you go. The Story of an Hour. Okay. And then, oh gosh. All right. Unit 4 project. You're going to create a playlist that demonstrates your understanding of a theme, compose an essay, design a book bento. Oh, that's going to be a good one. All right. And then I think that's it. Lesson 15. That is lesson 15. Your project is your capstone. And then your final project. So this is the final week of this. An artifacts museum, a new territory annotation and analysis, or self-reflection in a visual representation. And then there's scaffolded information on how to do all that. Okay, guys. I am really excited. I am really, really, really excited for it. I now have officially gone through all the emotions that you can possibly go through with curriculum. Okay, as exciting and climatic as you can get with choosing your curriculum for like the school year. So I'm really excited for it. I'm really, really excited for it. So I was really excited in the very beginning, waiting for it. I purchased it the first day that it came out. And then I did like a brief flip through. I think some of my letdown was that it was a lot of review for us initially when I first like flipped through it. But this is again for my particular child, right? Because with him, a lot of the stuff we've been doing probably since he was in 2nd grade or 3rd grade, because he's just a little bit more he's just not a typical like 6th grader, you know what I mean? And so I think a lot of it was a little bit of a letdown as far as that goes. And then that I saw the first 2 stories and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've already read those. And I'm like, oh, you know, but some of the stuff, like if I'm being completely honest, I haven't actually covered like since last summer. So this is really great, and it's being done in a creative way. It's not your regular old cut and dry typical thing, you know what I mean? And so I'm excited for it. I think this is going to balance out what we're already doing so perfectly. I'm excited. I hope that this has helped you guys out doing like a flip through and stuff. And again, this is a teacher's guide. This is just kind of giving you the answers, like, or a sample of what the answers could look like, right? But really it's kind of like how to assist your student and stuff, and how to answer questions. It's giving you a really concise rundown on what you're going to be reading. So it leaves out the dialogue, right? So in here you have the dialogue, like it's a conversation between you and the student, like it's the conversation between whoever wrote this curriculum to the student, right? It has, you know, it's not as dry. It has more relevant language in there. For them to be able, like, to relate to, you know what I mean? And this one is just more of the cut and dry. Bam, bam, bam. This is what they're learning about. Bam, bam, bam. How to help your student. And so it's just like, this is what we're doing. Bam, bam. Here are the answers to the questions and stuff, you know? It's not going to have, it's not a regurgitation of the student guide. You can see the differences in sizes, right? So you can see how much thicker the student one is, and then the teacher's guide, okay? So I don't even remember if they sell this. No, I think they sell it separately. So the reason I'm telling you is so that way you know, I think that this is necessary alone for just the answers to all the graphic organizers that they have in here, but also because they have tidbits of like recapping, review, what to look for, and things like that. How to assist them when they get stuck. You know what I mean? What to look for in terms of like their quality of writing and stuff. You know what I mean? So anyway, so there's that. And then you got that. I hope it's been helpful, guys. Let me know if you guys have any questions. If you want to see a day and date and how we approach it, because I'm excited. We're going to be using a lot of our Jack and Link materials and stuff. There's going to be a lot of wonderful notebooking, a lot of projects. I'm going to start a highlight on this in my Instagram account because I think that this is going to be a favorite. I really think it's going to be a favorite for him. But if you want to see day to day and you still want to look and find out more information, then follow me over on Instagram. It's the same username as the one here on YouTube. So Into the Rabbit Hole with me. Okay. I hope that this has been helpful. Let me know. Is this a yay or nay for you? And there's no wrong answer. What works for me may not work for somebody else, and vice versa. There is no wrong answer, but sometimes it is helpful to hear other people's point of view and stuff. So when somebody says it's not going to work for me because this, and this, other people can see that and be like, oh, you know what? That sounds exactly like my child, and it may not work for me as well because of that. But also keep an open mind when other people are also giving an opinion, because again, just because it doesn't work for somebody else, and even if it sounds like that student is just like your student is unique, and your student is still very much different from everybody else. You know what I mean? So always take what somebody else's opinion is with a grain of salt, you know? Anyway, super excited, guys. Let me know what you guys think.